Alright guys, welcome back a little late to the party, but we have the new leaks and they kind of gave us Tenpai Dragon, you could say, for the next upcoming pack in September. I was hoping for Tenpai Dragon, but obviously it's not Tenpai Dragon, but it's kind of like Tenpai Dragon, a deck that I didn't really think of, honestly, but obviously is also support from the new pack. We have talked about this when I talked about which archetypes I think could come next. We skipped about this archetype quickly, but then I moved on in the hopes that we will get Tenpai Dragon, and maybe we will, because there will be one more new archetype coming for the September pack that will be probably revealed next Monday. So new meaning that this archetype is completely new and has not been basically introduced to the game before. So we are still getting one of these as it seems. So what am I talking about? We are getting the support for the ancient gear stuff. This is really cool. And if you're not aware of what this wants to achieve, I honestly have to admit that I myself am not the biggest ancient gear expert. I was at a local a few weeks ago where I played Fiendsmith Snake Eyes and was destroyed 2-0 by Ancient Gear because I wasn't really aware of the fact that this is a going second deck. So this is why I call this video, they basically gave us Tenpai, right? Because this is actually a very strong going second deck that can protect its monsters or its kill monsters very well with some specific cards. And we will get the rest of the support. So the remaining 7 cards here, we will also get the Ancient Gear statue, which is a new card that even the TCG does not have at this current point. And I am aware that this is a very good card for the Ancient Gear support. If you know exactly how this could help the combo, let me know in the comments, because as I already said, not the biggest expert when it comes to Ancient Gear stuff here. But yeah, this is a going second kill deck, and as you can see, we already have a lot of these cards in the game. You will, and I have a deck list here from the OCG that is kind of like current. As you can see, we have the Mulch armies here. We have newer cards like basically the Mulch armies, right? But we have like the Heavy Storm, which just recently came off the ban list, and the deck could look like something like this. We're getting the Ancient Gear Commander, we're getting the Ancient Gear Statue, and then obviously the monster that can make the kill, the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, which is already in the game. It is an ultra rare, but the deck could actually be quite expensive. It depends a bit. I think that these cards will be quite high rarity, even though, as you can see right here, we only need the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant here, the basically extra deck monster, and then we have another ultra rare, the Gear Town. But I think Gear Town is not even used in this new variant, because we are using the Ancient Gear Fortress, which there's one Gear Town actually, which is one of the most insane cards ever, and actually a card that is, if I'm not mistaken here, already revealed in the game. It is a rare here, but in my opinion, one of the most like unfair ones, together with this new trap that we are getting, because this says during the turn they were normal special summoned. Your opponent cannot target Ancient Gear monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So this protects basically all of your monsters from being, and this is very relevant, from being like targeted by an impermanence or by an effect veiler or by anything else that is not untargeting banishment, which is definitely not a lot of effects in the game. For example, Mirror Jade would work. But then this also says your opponent can not activate cards or effect in response to the activation of Ancient Gear cards and effects, which might be even more unfair, right? And this doesn't only say like Ancient Gear monsters, it says Ancient Gear cards or effects, which means that you can't Ash Blossom anything, you can't, I don't know, Effect Veil like anything, you can't Appaloosa anything, because it just doesn't work because of Ancient Gear Fortress, which is extremely crazy. And then this new card, Ancient Gear Duel, says Ancient Gear Golem and monsters that mention it in your monster zone are unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects, which basically protects them against anything that the Ancient Gear Fortress did not protect them from, right? So in the SP, Little Knight obviously wouldn't work because of the Gear Fortress, but the Mirror Jade, for example, that I just mentioned, would work, even though there is the Ancient Gear Fortress on the field. But now with the Ancient Gear Duel, you can't even use your Mirror Jade to interact with your opponents, for example, kill monster, the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. And then if your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion summon, which obviously might be the case because you are going second here. You can fusion summon one fusion monster that mentions Ancient Gear Golem from your extra deck by banishing monsters from your field or graveyard as material, including Ancient Gear Golem you control. And if you do, it can make up to 3 attacks during each battle phase. And you normally go for this one, the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, this is really hard to pronounce for some reason, which says must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways unaffected by spells and traps, as if this would matter, because honestly, this still, if these two are on the field and you can get to them, then you can't really interact with him anyways. But it's also unaffected by spells and traps if you also needed this. Your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. Okay, this is basically like a Tenpai boss monster, which we will take a look at in the moment. So this is actually kind of like Tenpai, but a worse version, but might be the second best going second deck in the game, honestly. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent, and this has 4/5 attack and can make 3 normal attacks if you have the Ancient Gear duel and have made it with this trap card here. So this is really insane, and it's really hard to not kill your opponent through this. Obviously, Tenpai Dragon is able to basically provide a bit more damage, but this is still insane, and we can quickly take a look at how this could look like here. A video, shoutouts to Supernix, who always has nice videos, like just quick little combo guys. We can see starting here with these 2 cards in the hand. And then we are going to get the Ancient Gear Advance that can search the Ancient Gear, I think Catapult or something like this. Which can now summon the Ancient Gear Dark Golem, which is also one of the new cards that we are getting. Ancient Gear Dark Golem, basically the normal or the new normal Ancient Gear Golem, but better. And this one can then search 2 cards. Here you can see the Ancient Gear Duel here, and now we can make the Fusion Summon. And yeah, we have this monster here on the field that can also just kill our opponent outright, which is an older card that you can also use, the Ancient Gear or Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. And if you obviously made him with this trap card here, yeah, you can just kill your opponent because it can attack up to 3 times. And then you can see we're also playing a lot of board breakers here. They have a Storm, which we also have at 1 now in Master Rule. We have like a Duster, we have Forbidden Droplets. If we needed to interrupt something else here, we have Maxis, obviously, we have Court Buys, and then they are able in the OCG, and we will be in the future to just play a lot of Mulch armies. If you're not aware, this is the new Maxi. Basically, this gives you a draw each time your opponent's specials from the extra deck or from the deck, and this one, the Purulia, gives you a card each time your opponent normal or specials from the hand. And then you have to shuffle back at the end of the turn cards up to the number of the cards your opponent controls on the field +6, which never really comes up because at this point you will have used a lot of your other hand interactions, so it doesn't really matter. And obviously you can also use cards like Red Reboot here, that is still in the OCG but no longer in the TCG. So very, very strong going second deck here. So if you want to go and take a deck going second, then you will be able to in the future in September with the Ancient Gear support stuff here. I know that a lot of people, or some people, are hyped for this. We obviously have cards that we have used in other decks, like the Super Heavy Samurai stuff here, that a lot of you might already have, so you might already be prepared for this deck. And as I already said, this is kind of like Tenpai Dragon, because if we take a quick look at Tenpai Dragon, what makes Tenpai Dragon so effective, or what makes this deck so unfair, which is definitely, this is the best like going second deck that we currently have, is the Field Spell, which says Fire Dragon monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects during your main phase 1 only, which now that you read this Field Spell here, the Ancient Gear cards actually sound even more insane, because this is even more protection, especially together with this. And then we also have the Tenpai Dragon's boss monster, which will probably get the animation when we get it, the Tenpai Transcendent Dragon, which says that, where is it? There it is. Or your opponent's monsters must attack if able. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effect during the battle phase. So if you play Tenpai Dragon and you get into the battle phase with this Tenpai Transcendent Dragon, then your opponent won't be able to activate anything. And if you then have a Sangen Kaiman, which is a quick play spell that you can activate in your battle phase to special summon a Tenpai Dragon monster from the deck onto the hand, onto the field, and then you basically can kill your opponent with, for example, the Trident Dragon. But yeah, Ancient Gear basically has these same tools available in the form of the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant Ancient Gear Duel and the Ancient Gear Fortress here. And the Ancient Gear Advance, we have just saw, there's also a new very strong card. When this card is activated, add 1 Ancient Gear spell trap from your deck to your hand except Ancient Gear Advance, so can't search itself. Once per turn, you contribute 1 monster, draw 1 card, and apply this effect for the rest of this turn. You can normal summon Ancient Gear Golem or level 5 or higher monsters that mention it without tributing. Also very amazing to get out the new strong monster here, the Ancient Gear Dark Golem. This card name becomes Ancient Gear Golem while on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is normal or special summon, you can activate, and we just saw this in the replay. This effect, you cannot set cards for the rest of this turn, which doesn't really matter. Also add up to 2 Ancient Gear cards and or Gear Town from your deck to your hand except Ancient Gear Dark Golem. Once again, can't search itself, and then we can discard 1 card. So very, very strong. And you also have this effect that if this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell trap cards until the end of the damage step, which this whole damage step thing is a completely other like subject that we have to talk about, or I will definitely make videos concerning this topic when we get Tenpai Dragon, because the damage step is a very special phase. The battle phase altogether is a very special phase that, for example, Tenpai Dragon, but also Ancient Gear has a lot of unique interactions in. So, for example, this one says here once per turn during the battle phase you can quick effect. Oh, this is the wrong one. They all have so many effects that you can't even find the right ones that you want to like read. At the start of the damage step, if a monster battles, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Fire Dragon monster from your deck, except this one here, which normally you would be able to Ash Blossom such an effect, but at the beginning of the damage step, you can't activate any effects that do an effect negation. You can, for example, use an Appaloosa, because an Appaloosa is an activation negation. You could also use a Forbidden Droplet, because Forbidden Droplet basically changes the attack and defense stats of a monster, and you could also use trigger effects. So, for example, if you use your Chandra to summon a Pydra, the Pydra on summon would be able to trigger effect, search a Sanguine Pie spell or trap, and the funny thing is that you would also not be able to Ash Blossom this, as you would normally would be able to, because this is still in the damage step. So there's a whole new thing to learn if you're playing Master Duel and you're not really aware of how the damage step works with the Tenpai Dragon deck, but also with Ancient Gear. So let me know in the comments what you think of this Ancient Gear reveal. I honestly think this could be quite interesting. I'm very interested in seeing whether we will only get this one, but might also get Tenpai Dragon. But I also have to admit that as of right now, this looks like a skip pack in general. I will definitely get, and I have talked about this in the video concerning the latest leaks. If you have not seen this one and what this basically means for Rika, then there's a video in the top right corner for you. Go check that out. But yeah, I'm definitely grabbing these cards, so the Ragnar Rika cards, just as a support for my Rika deck. But not quite sure whether I will go for Ancient Gear stuff, if I'm going to be honest. If this is very cheap, then I might. But I guess because we are getting some of the more important cards like this one or this one, and also like the Gear Statue, we have seen this. The Gear Statue is played at 3, this is played at 2, and then the Commander is also at 1. The spell card is at 3, so this will definitely, or most likely, not be a very like cheap deck. So I'm definitely not going into this. You will also need a lot of either board breakers that are normally ultra rares or hand traps that are normally ultra rares. So the big downside of this deck, this is, I have to say at the end here, the big downside of this deck comparing to Tenpai Dragon is that it definitely cannot play as many non-engine as can play Tenpai Dragon, which makes it worse than Tenpai Dragon. We have like 3 Maxi in here. We have, these are 5, so we have 8, we have 9, 10, we have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16, I guess. And if you look at this example Tenpai list, we have 3, we have another 3, we have another 3, 9, we have 10, we have 13, we have 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And then we have 25, so we have 25 non-engine, which is crazy and definitely pushes the Tenpai Dragon deck, or basically promotes it to be the most powerful going second deck. But let me know in the comments what you think of Ancient Gear. Are you excited for this? How excited are you for the next pack? If you like my videos, please consider subscribing, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell, and we will see each other in the next one, guys.